Good day, I am Risilva Calsohito, B.Ed 2B. The author wanted to document his journey across the globe. He wanted to detail the event and the experiences. Pigafetta tells how being there in Barcelona in 1519. Also, he heard about Magellan expedition and being wishful to learn about the world. Asked for obtain and permission to join the voyage. That's all. Thank you and God bless.
Good morning. My name is Aisa Dahilan Balagno, BAED Section B. On August 10, 1519, five ships departed from Seville, and that was become the first circumnavigation of the globe. And approximately 240 men set out with Magellan. Pigafetta was one of the only 18 people who returned to Spain. Pigafetta works is very important not only as a source of information about voyage itself, but also includes the Western description about people and language of the Philippines.
So, good morning everyone. I'm Wilmer Isayre from BA 2B. And now I will be reporting the content analysis of the document. The goal of content analysis is to make the qualitative analysis of documents that can be digital but also physical. The very first step of the analysis process aims to code the content of the documents into categories. After the analysis may start, and it usually includes text but also videos or photos. A good example of the classified documents analysis is the review of the answer of survey. Another one is the study of a business content. And now there are three examples of types of sources of document analysis. First is the public research, such as statement of a purpose, yearly reports, strategy manual, e-books, and so on. And the second is personal documents. The personal documents such as message, construct, article, um, social media, daily paper, etc. And next, the third types of the analysis document is the physical evidence, such as flyers, um, public books, or printed training material.
My name is Jesseline P. Goyo from BED Tobe, and now I will continue the content analysis of the document. Custom and tradition, socio-cultural significance, describe the people of Latrini as thieves, describes woman as white and tall, but their teeth were red and black. The local treated people with food and shelter as an act of friendship. Next is the economy significance. Lot of golds and resources. Men work outside than women. Houses are built with woods covered with plants. And lastly is the political significance. The kings treated with loyalty and superiority by its people. That's all. Thank you.
Antonio Pigafetta's first voyage around the world, a travelogue. On September 8, 1522, the crew of the Victoria cast anchor in the waters of Seville, Spain, having just completed the first circumnavigation of the world. On board was Antonio Pigafetta, a young Italian nobleman who had joined the expedition 3 years before and served as an assistant to Ferdinand Magellan en route to the Macola Islands. Magellan was dead. The rest of the fleet was gone. The Santiago shipwreck, the San Antonio and overtaken, the Conception burned, and Trinidad abandoned. Of the 237 sailors who departed from Seville, 18 returned on the Victoria. Pigafetta had managed to survive. along with his journal notes that detailed discovery of the western route of Moluccas, and along the way, new land, new peoples. On the far side of the Pacific, the fleet has stumbled across the Marianas Archipelago and some 300 leagues farther west from the Philippines. Pigafetta's journal became the basis for his 1,525 travelogue, the first voyage around the world. According to scholar Theodore Cacci Jr., the travelogue represented the literary epitome of its genre and achieved an international reputation. One of Pigafetta's patrons, Francisco Chiricati, called the journal a divine thing, and Shakespeare himself seems to have been inspired by work Sitbos, a deity invoked in Pigafetta's text by means of Patagonia, makes an appearance in the Tempest. First voyage, Cacci points out, is intent on marveling at what it encounters, and therein lies much of its appeal. It is a work that is intent on wonder, on astonishment. In travel writing, one often must recreate the first moment of newness, that fresh sense of awe. On the page for the reader, Pigafetta does it again and again. By traveling in odd and other bits of detail, we watch Pigafetta's wonder of trees in Borneo, whose leaves appear to walk and around one's shed, leaves that had no blood, but if one touches them, they run away. I kept one of them for 9 days in a box. When I opened the box, that leaf went round and round it. I believe that those leaves live on nothing but air. We marvel in the Philippines at sea snails capable of feeding whales by feeding on their hearts once ingested. On a stop in Brazil, we see an infinite number of parrots, monkeys that look like lions, and swine that have their navels on their backs, and large birds with beaks like spoons, and no tongues. And yet, the very newness can give travel writing so much of its power, creates problems on its own. For the travel writer, there is, on the one hand, the authority of his or her observations and on the other, the call for humanity in confronting the unknown. Pigafetta, encountering a new people, tries to earn his authority through a barrage of detail. He attempts to reconstruct their world for us, what they look like, where they live, what they eat, what they say. He gives us pages and pages of words. From Patagonia, from Cebu, from Tidor, but there is a little humanity, and one can hardly expect there to be so. Not early in 16th century, a few decades after Pope had divided the uncharted world. In a uncharted world between Spain and Portugal, and certainly not his on this expedition, where Magellan and his partners have been promised in a contract agreement with the Spanish monarchy the titles of lieutenants and governors over the lands they discover for themselves and their heirs, in perpetuity and cash sums, and 1/50th of the profits from the lands. The first voyage is great gulf between what Pigafetta sees and what Pigafetta knows. I give up in the Marianas hearings about this gulf. It is part of why travel writing can be so fraught for me now. On reaching the Marianas after nearly 4 months at sea with no new provisions, the captain general wished to stop the large island and get some fresh food, but he was unable to do so because the inhabitants of that island entered the ships and stole whatever they could lay their hands on in such a manner, but defend ourselves. The sailor did not understand that this was customs, that for the islanders properly was communal, and visitors were expected to share what they had. So, in that first moment of contract, Magellan and his starving crew retaliated. They went ashore and burned, by Pigafetta's account, 40 to 40 houses. They killed 7 men, mutual astonishment of the new and the wondrous talk of dark thorn. So in the first moment of contract, Magellan and his starving dark thorn. When we wounded any of those people with our crossbow shafts with post passed completely through their lions from one side to the other. They looking at it, pulled on the shaft, now on this and now on the side, and then drew it out with great astonishment, and so died. Others who were wounded in the breast did the same, which moved us to great compassion. We saw some women in their boats who were crying out and tearing their hair for love, I believe of their dead. Magellan named the archipelago Islas de los Ladrones, the islands of thieves. The name would stick for the next 300 years, long after the islands were absorbed into the Spanish Empire. The name, the bold condemnatory stroke of it, has long been anchored to my past. To those old history lessons, there is no feeling in it but rage. So I was surprised to see, in Pigafetta's text, the sailors moved to compassion. They seemed to understand in that moment of astonishment that the islanders are defenseless against the unknown. From the Marianas and the fleet moved on the Philippines. They lingered exploring the land, exchanging gifts with the chief, observing the people, and I know that we're seeing through Pigafettas the hush of the world just before it changed, wholly and entirely. And there is Pigafetta marveling at the coconuts and the bananas and the naked, beautiful people. It's happening. It's happening even now in the text, as the Filipino pilots are captured to direct the way to the Moluccas, the way to the spices. There is Pegafetta roaming and cataloging and recording, caught up in the first flash of a new world. And as I read, I can start to hear my father describing his country, wondering at it. My father traveling as a young man, up and down Luzon, across the sea to the Visayas, across the sea to Mindanao. I can hear the ardor and the sadness and the terror and the delight. I can hear the wonder. I can feel the pulse to move. I suppose this is what great travel writing gives us. A way to wholly enter a moment, a feeling, a body, a way to be changed. I can be my father, marveling of his country. Our country transformed by its vast expanse. I can be Pegafetta on the deck of Trinidad, moved to write from shock and wonder. And I can be the woman on a boat in the Marianas, crying out of the love for that dead.